Hi. So we're graphing the ax squared plus bx plus c. And like I just said before I started recording, it's because we're moving side to side, why we can't just plug in numbers. Okay, we are moving horizontally. We're not going to talk about transformations today. We're not too concerned about that because it's a little bit harder when it's in this format to talk about specific transformations. So really, we're just going to concentrate on the graphing part. Okay. The first thing that we have to do is we have to find the center of the parabola. We have to find that center of the parabola, because if we don't find the center, let's say this parabola is going to end up being here. But we only plug in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Well, if you just plug in those numbers, what it's going to end up looking like is it's going to end up looking like a straight line. And we're not going to find that U shape. We're not going to find that parabola. And we need that shape. Okay, we need that parabola to understand what it is. So we have to find the middle of it. What was that middle of the parabola called? What do we call that, AJ? The vertex was the point that was there. Caleb? The A of S. Okay, the A of S, the axis of symmetry. So we need to find the A of S. Okay, let me give an example here. Let's go with 4x squared plus 8x minus 1. That's going to be our first example here. We're going to find that A of S. And the way we find the A of S, the way we find the A of S, remember it's an equation, it's x equals. And what it's going to be is going to be x equals -b over 2a. Make sure we have that in our notes. That's important. -b over 2a. And those letters, the A and the B, of course, come from our equation, right? ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're concerned about the A and the B here. So it says -b. We're going to think of that as the opposite of B. Okay, it's the opposite of B, because if B is a negative, then when we plug it in, it's going to become positive. So this is going to be the opposite of whatever B is. We're going to change the sign on it. So for this one, the opposite of B would be -8 and then 2 times A. So 2 times 4, and then we would just simplify that down. 2 times 4 is 8, -8 divided by +8. What's -8 divided by +8? -1. Thank you. So our A of S is x equals -1. And remember, it's got to be that equation, right? It's got to be x equals. So x equals -1. So then we're going to draw in that A of S. Okay, if you haven't yet, please create a graph and do this with me, so it's in your notes. And I'm going to keep some steps over here on what we're doing to graph. So if you want to keep that on there as well, somewhere on your notes, that would be beneficial. Our first step, find and graph the A of S. We want to know where the center, the middle of our parabola is going to be. Okay, so what else do we know about the A of S in terms of our parabola? What is true about that A of S and our parabola? Ben, what do you think? Yeah, it's going to be the x and the vertex, right? The vertex is on the A of S, right? The vertex is on the A of S. So step 2 is going to be to find the vertex. Okay, I will write that up in a second. But to find that vertex, how am I going to find that vertex? I know Finn already told us that the A of S is the X value of it. What do I have to do to find the Y value? Okay, plug it in. I'm not going to plug 0. I'm going to plug -1 in. Because I know that -1 is the X value of my vertex. So I'm going to take that -1. I'm going to plug it back in to the equation. Right? I want you to plug that -1 into the equation and find out that Y value of our vertex. That can be in your head, that can be on a calculator, that can be writing it out, whatever you need to do. So I talked to someone about it. When you plug in the -1, what did you get out? All right. What did we get when we plugged in the -1? What do we get here, Ben?
-5.
-5. Plug in that -1. -1 squared is a +1. So 4 times 1 is 4. -8 minus 1. We're going to get -1, -5. So we can go ahead and graph that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can graph that vertex. So our step 2. Hopefully you wrote it down as you're waiting. We're going to plug that A of S into the function to get the vertex. A lot of the questions you see today are just going to be asking you to find the A of S and the vertex. And that's it. Not even graph it. They're just going to give the equation. They're going to say, what's the A of S? What's the vertex? This is the 2 steps that you're going to do. Okay. Any questions on finding the A of S or finding the vertex? But this isn't enough for a graph, right? We need at least a couple more points to be able to graph it. So there's another point that we can easily find here. We're going to easily find, we're going to find the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept of that equation? Cassius? Say it again?
-5.
Nope. Like the y-intercept. Xander?
-1.
-1. It is -1. Okay, because remember the y-intercept is when x is 0. Okay, it's along this line. So when x is 0. So if x is 0, that means I can cover up both of the x terms. So I just get that. Right here, this c value is always the y-intercept. Whatever that c value is, that's your y-intercept. Every single time. So our next step is we are going to graph the y-intercept, which is our c value. In this case is a -1.
Do the same on the other side of it.
And then the next thing, we need something on the other side because it is an axis of symmetry, right? It's symmetrical. One side is the same as the other side. We're going to take that point, we're going to reflect it over to the other side. Right? Because it is symmetrical. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go, all right, this is 1 away from the A of S. I'm going 1 away on the other side. So we are just reflecting it over to the other side. So we are going to reflect the y-intercept across the A of S. And we could do more than this. We could, a lot of times, books will have you plug in another number to get 5 points instead of 3. We're going to be okay with 3 points. Okay, so we're going to stop here. Now, all we have to do is connect it. Make sure, though, and because we're using 3 points, sometimes people forget this. It is a U shape. It's not a V. So it should not be straight line, straight line. Okay, it is not a V shape. You need to make it a U shape. Okay, make it a U shape, put the arrows on the end because it goes on forever. And we're good. Okay. Hey, Jeff?
How far should the reflected y-intercept be?
However far away it is from the A of S, it's going to be that same distance on the other side. Right? So if the A of S was at -3, I'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and put my point. Okay. Step 5 is just to connect and create the parabola. We're going to connect those 3 dots, creating that parabola. Okay, any questions on our 5-step process? I know 5 steps seems like a lot. It's really not that much here. Okay, you're finding the A of S, you're finding the vertex, the y-intercept is given to you. You're reflecting and then you're connecting. Okay, it's not bad. Let's try one on our own. So there's our equation. Okay, go through that process. Feel free to talk it through with somebody if you need to. That's fine if you need to ask them a question. That's what we're graphing right there. Okay, wherever you are in the process, talk to somebody about it. Make sure you got the same A of S, the same vertex. Okay?
I was in my lines next to this. I was cracked last
All right, hey, here we go. If you don't get that A of S correct, the whole thing is shot, right? You got to get the A of S correct, or else your vertex isn't going to be correct, and then your graph isn't going to look correct. Okay, so negative B over 2A, the opposite of B over 2A. Opposite of B is a positive 10 over 2 times negative 5. So 10 divided by negative 10 ends up giving us a negative 1. So just like last time, our A of S is x is equal to negative 1. Okay, it won't always be negative 1. It just happened to be negative 1 for both of these. Okay, we take that, we plug it back in. What is our vertex going to be here? Finn? Negative 1, 3. Do we agree?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Negative 1, 3, which is right there. We plug in that negative 1, right? That gives you a positive 1 here. So that's negative 5 plus 10 minus 2 is going to give us that positive 3. Okay, we plot our y-intercept, which is at negative 2. We reflect it over. So it's 1 here, so it's 1 here. And then we connect it. Okay, we put our arrows. There you go. So this one, of course, opened down, right? This one was facing down. This one was facing up. Raise your hand and tell me, what about the equations do you think can tell us whether it's going to open up or down? What about the equations of those two is going to tell us that it opens up versus down? Okay?
Negative A.
Yeah, the A value. If that A is negative, it's going to open down. Because remember, that A being negative was a reflection. We talked about that the other day, right? That A being negative is a reflection. That still holds true. So it is a reflection. So it is opening down. If it's a positive value, it's going to open up. Okay? It's not going to ask anything about transformations. Nope. Okay, so we've got whether it opens up or down. So we should have a general idea, just looking at our equation, what our graph is going to look like. At least whether it opens up or down. And if what we get as a result of these 5 steps doesn't look like that, doesn't match that, then we did something wrong. Okay. The other thing that they're going to ask you about in the very first question of the homework is when you have a positive A value here, right? It opens up. The vertex down here is considered a minimum. That's the minimum value right there, right? It's the smallest it can be. Is there a minimum when it opens down? Is there a smallest it can be? No, because it goes on forever, right? We got the arrow. But what do you think that point is going to be called? Maximum. A maximum. So your graph is either going to have a minimum or a maximum, one or the other, and it all depends on which way it's going to open. Okay, whether it's opening up or opening down. Okay, any questions right now on this? Okay. Like I said, the majority of your questions today are just asking you to find the A of S and the vertex. You guys hold on, give me like another minute here before you start moving stuff. Some of them are going to ask you about maximum minimum, right? There are going to be 3 questions that actually ask you to graph, and that's it. Okay, just 3 of them. But I need you to actually graph them this time. Okay, not just pick out the right one, not just, right? Big idea is it's still going to ask you which one is correct. On your page, I want the actual graph for these 3. So it's going to be 13, 15, and 17. We are graphing. Okay, not just ordered pairs, because we're not plugging in ordered pairs. I want the actual graph this time. Okay. Okay. No, because we're not plugging in numbers, right? So there's no XY chart to show. Any other questions about it? Okay, go ahead.